Greetings, my name is Mbongiseni Speaks. Welcome to Mbongiseni Speaks. On this platform, we examine global politics and economic development through calm and strategic analysis. Our aim is not simply to follow the headlines of the day, but to understand the deeper forces that shape the international system and influence the balance of power between nations. Today, we turn to one of the most powerful instruments in modern geopolitics, economic sanctions. Sanctions have been used for decades as a tool through which powerful nations attempt to influence the behavior of other states. Through sanctions, government can restrict trade, freeze financial assets, limit technology cooperation, and in some cases isolate the entire economy from the international financial system. Across the world, we frequently hear about sanctions being imposed on different countries. In recent years, sanctions have been applied through Russia, Venezuela, and several other states. This instrument are often presented as an instrument designed to pressure governments into change their policies or behavior. However, these decisions lies a deeper question that is becoming increasingly important in global politics. Are sanctions still as powerful as they once were? Or are we gradually entering a new period in which the global financial system itself is beginning to evolve in a way that could reshape how sanctions function? To understand this question, we must first examine the architecture of the international financial system. For many decades, the global economy has operated within the structure that is heavily influenced by the relatively small number of financial centers and institutions. At the center of this system lies the dominance of the United States dollar. A very large portion of global trade is conducted in dollar. Commodities such as oil, natural gas, and many industries goods are often priced and settled using the dollar as the primary currency. International banks around the world maintain connection through global financial network that is facilitated the movement of the capital between countries. Because of this structure, the states that control or influence this financial system possess enormous leverage in international politics. When sanctions are imposed, targeted countries can find themselves restricted from accessing the banking networks that allow money to move across borders. Financial assets may be frozen. Companies may lose access to international credit markets, and trade transactions can become extremely difficult to complete. In essence, sanctions function by limiting a country's ability to participate fully in the global economic bloodstream. When access to that system is restricted, the economic pressure can become very significant. For many years, this system allows sanctions to function as one of the most powerful instruments of the geopolitical influence. However, over the past decades, we have begun to observe development that suggests the international financial landscape may be gradually evolving. Several countries have started exploring ways to reduce their dependence on a single global financial architecture. One example of this can be observed within the BRICS grouping, which include Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Within this grouping, discussions have increasingly focused on expanding trading using national currency rather than relying exclusively on the US dollar as an intermediary. These discussions are not necessarily about replacing the existing financial systems immediately. Rather, they reflect effort by countries to create additional financial pathways that can be operated alongside existing structure. China in particular has invested significant resources into developing financial settlement systems that allow international transactions to be processed through international channels. Bilateral trade agreements between different countries are also increasingly being conducted using local currency. This development do not mean that the dollar is about to disappear from the global finance. The dollar remains deeply embedded within the international market and continues to function as the world primary reserve currency. However, the emergence of alternative systems indicates that the global financial environment may be gradually densifying. Diversification does not necessarily replace the existing system. Instead, it introduces additional layers into the financial architecture of the international economy. If this trend continues, the geopolitical implication could be significant. Sanctions have historically been powerful because they operate within a highly centralized financial system. When the majority of international transactions pass through the limited number of networks, restricting access to those networks can have far-reaching consequences. But in a world where financial channel becomes more distributed, the dynamics may begin to change. Countries facing sanctions could potentially explore alternative trade partners, alternative payment system, or a new form of financial cooperation. This does not mean that sanctions will suddenly become ineffective. Sanctions will likely remain an important instrument in international relations. However, their impact may become more complex and less predictable in a world where multiple financial pathways exist. These changes are part of the broader transformation that many analysts describe as the gradual shift from the unipolar global system towards a more multiple international order. In a unipolar system, power tends to be concentrated within a relatively small group of dominant actors. In contrast, a multipolar system involves several centers of economy and political influences interacting within a more balanced environment. As economic growth expands across Asia, Africa, and other emerging regions, the structure of global power may continue to evolve. These institutions, network, and financial mechanisms that support the global economic may adapt to reflect these changes. For countries such as South Africa, this development presents both opportunity and strategic challenges. South Africa maintains important economic relationship with the Western markets while also participating in BRICS partnership and strengthening connection with the emerging economics. Navigating this involvement landscape require careful diplomacy and strategic economic planning. The objective is not to become entangled in greater power rivals, but rather to maintain constructive engagement with the multiple partners while protecting national economic interests. In an increasingly interconnected world, flexibility and strategic balance becomes important assets for countries seeking long-term stability and growth. Sanctions will likely remain part of the geopolitical landscape for many years to come. Yet the financial architecture through which sanctions operate is not fixed. It continues to evolve as technology advances, as new economic partnerships develop, and as the global balance of power gradually shifts. The international system is constantly adapting to new realities. Understanding these structural changes allow us to see beyond daily headlines and observe the deeper patterns shaping global politics. Thank you for watching Mbongiseni Speaks. If you value calm and strategic geopolitical analysis, consider subscribing and joining the conversation. Until next time, stay informed and continue thinking critically about the forces shaping our world.